You ever look around your life and realize you didn't exactly choose this? Not all of it, at least. Some of it, yes, but some of it just happened. One routine became normal. One delay became a pattern. One compromise became a lifestyle. One season of survival became the way you started living, and nobody around you noticed. Because from the outside, you were functioning. You were getting things done. You were answering messages. You were showing up where you were supposed to show up. But somewhere underneath all that movement, you stopped steering. You didn't crash. You didn't quit. You did not fall apart. You just drifted. And maybe the scariest part about drift is that it does not always feel like failure. Sometimes it feels like being busy. Sometimes it feels like being responsible. Sometimes it feels like keeping up. Sometimes it feels like life. Until one night, everything gets quiet enough and something in you whispers, "How did you get here?" Welcome back to the Eminence Legacy podcast. I'm Jose Luis Cadena, and this is the Midnight Questions. Tonight we're sitting with something quiet but dangerous. How do you stop drifting through life? Drift rarely feels dramatic while it's happening. As a matter of fact, sometimes you don't notice it. That is why it's so easy to ignore. It does not usually arrive like crisis. It arrives like a small delay, a small excuse, a small numbness, a small "I'll deal with it later," a small "this is just how things are right now." And then that later becomes a place. Later becomes an identity. Later becomes a story you keep repeating. And by the time you notice, you are not just behind on a goal. You feel behind on yourself, on life. That is a quiet pain of drift. It makes you feel like you are still moving, but not toward anything you meant to become. You are active, but not anchored. Busy, but not direct. Present, but not fully awake. And that is a dangerous way to live, because a drifting life can still look productive. A drifting life can still pay the bills. A drifting life can still post online. A drifting life can still smile in public. But inside, deep down inside, there is no clear command, no inner decision, no conviction holding the wheel, just motion. And motion without direction can quietly become a loss. Maybe the right question to ask is, am I actually choosing where my life is going? Because those are not the same. You can do a lot and still not be choosing. You can be exhausted and still not be aligned. You can be surrounded by activity and still feel like your life is being lived by default settings. That is what drift does. It lowers the standard so slowly you barely notice the descent. At first, you stop protecting your mornings. Then you stop protecting your focus. Then you stop protecting your word. Then you stop protecting your health. Then slowly you stop protecting your spirit. Not all at once. Drift is patient. It does not need to destroy you quickly. It just needs you to stop paying attention. Now let's be fair. Not everybody who is drifting is lazy. Some people are tired. Some people are overwhelmed. Some people have been in survival mode so long they forgot what intentional living feels like. Some people had responsibilities hit them before they had direction. Some people had pain interrupt the plan. Some people did not drift because they did not care. They drifted because life got heavy and autopilot felt safer than deciding again. So this is not about shaming you. This is not about calling you out, but it is about waking you up. Because even if drift begins as survival, it cannot remain your strategy forever. At some point, you have to ask yourself, am I still surviving something, or have I made survival my identity? That question matters because survival may help you get through a season. We've all been through that. But the truth is, survival was never meant to become your permanent operating system. You were not built to spend your whole life reacting. You were built to choose, to build, to steward, to rise. There is a strange grief that comes with drift. It is hard to explain because nothing may be obviously wrong, but something feels missing, something inside. You wake up and the day already has demands. You move through routines and the routines move through you. You keep doing what needs to be done. but you cannot remember the last time you felt connected to why you were doing it. And when people ask, how are you? You say, I'm good, because explaining the truth would take too long. How do you explain that you are not broken, but you are not fully present either? How do you explain that you are not giving up, but you are not really aiming? How do you explain that you are grateful, but still feel like something in your life has gone quiet? That is tension. Drift does not always steal your whole life at once. Sometimes it steals your sense of participation. You are there, but you are not leading. You are moving, but you are not choosing. You are breathing, but not building with intention. And eventually, you start feeling like a guest in your own life. That one is heavy, because you can live so long on autopilot that intentionality starts feeling unfamiliar. And when intentionality feels unfamiliar, discipline feels harsh, vision feels unrealistic, change feels inconvenient, and conviction feels like pressure. But it is not pressure, it is your life asking you to come back. So let's not make this cute. If your life is drifting, something is steering it. Maybe comfort, maybe fear, maybe distraction, maybe old habits, maybe other people's expectation, maybe your phone, maybe your schedule, maybe the version of you that keeps choosing the easiest next thing instead of the truest next thing. But something is steering it, because life does not pause just because you refuse to decide. See, time keeps moving. Your habits keep compounding. Your body keeps responding. Your relationships keep becoming something. Your future keeps being shaped, even when you are not paying attention. That is why drift is so dangerous. Let that sit for a second. You do not have to choose destruction to end up far from your purpose. You only have to stop choosing direction. That is why tonight matters. Because if you can't see the drift, you can interrupt it. Your life is not random. Your time is not random. Your gifts are not random. Your influence is not random. What has been placed in your hands requires stewardship, not panic, not perfection, stewardship. That means you stop treating your days like disposable things. You stop acting like tomorrow owes you another chance to care. You stop living like conviction can be postponed forever, because conviction ignored long enough eventually becomes grief. Not because God stopped speaking, but because you kept training yourself not to respond. And maybe tonight, this is not guilt. Maybe this is mercy. Maybe the discomfort you feel right now is not there to condemn you. Maybe it is there to call you back to truth, back to discipline, back to direction, back to the version of you that still knows there's more in you than the life you have been drifting through. So how do you stop drifting? Not with a dramatic life overhaul. Most people try that. They get emotional. They make a big announcement. They write down 10 goals. They change everything for 4 days. Then the old rhythm wins. No, you stop drifting by reclaiming one honest decision at a time. That is where the road begins. Name where you stop steering when you decided to let go. Do not start with everything. Start with one area. Your health, your faith, your schedule, your money, your mind, your relationships, your purpose. Ask yourself, where have I been moving but not leading? That question will reveal more than you expect, because drift hides inside motion. Choose one anchor, not 10. One practice, one boundary, one appointment, one morning decision, one conversation, one commitment you return to even when emotion is not there. An anchor is not impressive. It is stabilizing. And some of you do not need a whole new life by next week. You need one anchor that reminds you, I'm choosing again. So interrupt the pattern before it becomes your identity. This matters because whatever you repeat long enough starts becoming who you are. If you keep delaying, you start calling yourself stuck. If you keep avoiding, you start calling yourself confused. If you keep drifting, you start believing you have no direction. But that is not always true. Sometimes you are not directionless. You are just undisciplined with your intentions. Sometimes you are not lost. You are just loyal to the patterns that keep moving you away from clarity. So interrupt that pattern, not tomorrow, not when life calms down, soon. One move, one decision, one act of obedience, one small return to the wheel. That is how drift breaks. Not all at once, but honestly. Before you rush past this, sit with it. Where did you stop steering? Not where did life get hard. Not where did people disappoint you. Not where did circumstances change. Where did you stop steering? That is not an accusation. That is because the moment you can name where you let go of the wheel, you can begin to take it back and take control. And maybe tonight, you do not need to fix your entire life. Maybe tonight, you just need to stop pretending you are okay with drifting. That is a start, a holy one, a real one, a grown one. There's one more thing. Do not confuse numbness with peace. Peace has presence. Numbness has absence. Peace, settling. Numbness is detaching. Peace still cares. Numbness avoids feeling. And some people are not peaceful. They are just disconnected. They have drifted so long, so far. They stopped expecting themselves to feel alive. But legacy builders, you are not created just to make it through the week. You were not created just to manage responsibilities. You were not created just to exist quietly inside routines that no longer require your full heart. There is still a life to build. There is still a standard to return to. There is still a version of you that does not need hype. Just honesty. That's all you need. And the moment you stop drifting is the moment you stop waiting for your life to rescue itself. And next time on Midnight Questions, we are getting to sit with a question that sounds simple, but cuts deeper than most people will expect. What if the life you keep asking for requires a version of you keep refusing to become? That one is not loud, but it is going to follow some people into the dark. If this episode found you in a quiet place, do not let it disappear when the night ends. If you're listening to this on web browser or a link, maybe someone texted you this. Don't let this be a temporary visit. Hit the follow right now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Legacy builders don't just visit truth. They stay connected to it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening to this, someone who has been moving but not really living, send this to them. Not as judgment, as a reminder they can choose again. And if this series is becoming part of your night, stay close. Because some questions do not come to shame you. They come to bring you back to yourself. Drift does not end because life gets easier. Drift ends when you decide to stop abandoning the wheel. Not perfectly, not loudly, not for applauses, but honestly. One decision, one anchor, one return. So tonight, ask yourself, where has my life been moving without my permission? And then, quietly, take one piece of it back, one piece at a time. This is the Eminence Legacy podcast for every legacy builder listening in the quiet. Have a peaceful night, and remember, together let's rise to your eminence. Catch you in the next one.